Go ahead and start recording. I'm going to go ahead and go live on the page. And while that's thinking, all right, can you mic check?
Mic check, 1 2. 1 2, mic check. Hey.
Go ahead and roll on the Adobe Audition.
Do it.
Yeah, I'm doing it.
Do it.
You can't stop me.
You are correct. I'm quite a few miles away from you.
If that was your intention, it's not going to happen.
It is not my intention. So we're good.
Okay, I'm going to... Oh, good Lord. There's us, kind of. All right, well, that's going, so... cool. Okay, is there a way... God, can I don't need to see the preview window while this is happening. Is there a way to get rid of this? I don't... Because it's all it's going to do is screw up my... There we go. That's better. I don't need to look at I don't need to look at any of this while this is going on. This is just going to distract me. It's not even showing... Yeah, the least amount of buffering the page has to do, the better. So I'm just I'm just gonna hit the white screen so I can get my key light on.
Yep.
And I'm gonna ignore it. So there's that. That's rolling. Everything looks like it's rolling, but
sweet.
I'm gonna give it just a second to warm up while I figure out a couple other things. I had something. What was geez, what was it? I thought I had something. I thought of something, and I couldn't remember what it was that I had thought of doing, and now it's gone. So I don't know. There's you. So you're all set up. Can I please get your information off the screen? You know what? I'm gonna move OBS over here. I don't think I'm gonna get the white screen I wanted. This is all falling apart already. All right, I'm gonna full screen you. And I'm going to see how that affects all of this. This is kind of sucks because I have to do all the settings on your visuals. Like,
sure.
After the fact, why does it have your information up? Like, can I get rid of that? It never does that. I don't know why it's doing it now.
Huh.
Okay, well, whatever. That's okay. Guess I don't care. All right, forget it. The audio is working, so we're just going to press on.
Sweet.
Hello, Dustin.
Hey, Uber.
We're live on Facebook right now, and in terms of audio, it's going swimmingly.
Sweet.
Nothing is wrong at all.
Great.
We'll workshop this as it goes, but we wanted to try and bring the live element back to the show because that was always fun when it worked. And so it's kind of working now. So we're going to go for it. What's on screen right now is all the information about the show, the email address, the time we usually go live. That slate is oddly like 90% correct still, except for the phone number. It doesn't exist anymore. So, but we are
call it.
No, don't call. Well, you could.
Sure.
But don't. We are also on all of those podcast platforms. So if you are listening live or watching live right now, and you're into the show, but you're iffy about the technical quality of it, it's much cleaner once we've processed it and put it out onto those platforms as the podcast. So enjoy the live show, enjoy the interactivity, and enjoy the nowness of it, man. Because that's what we got going on right now is a whole bunch of nowness. And we're all present, and our chakras and all that other stuff too.
Sure.
But we are on iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, not SoundCloud, Radio Public, Google Podcasts, pretty much anywhere you can get your podcasts. That's where we are. So if you are new to the show, if you're listening live and you're a friend of mine who always wondered what the hell this page was, the page is this. So stick around. We're going to talk about movies. Before we do talk about movies, Dustin, how was your weekend?
It was good. Actually, had a good relaxing weekend. So, it's always good just to kind of chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a new router.
Okay.
For the Wi-Fi. Our router was like 8 years old. It was from like 2012.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure whoever made it thought the world was going to end and never didn't make a better router because the router's just been puttering along for like almost a decade,
Sure.
and our signal is split and whatever. So the long and short of it was, I was walking through Costco and I saw the Google Nest, and I was like, ooh. So we got the Google Nest so we could actually, you know how that works? Like you have the hub and then you
Yeah.
have like a point that pretty much like carries the signal for you and boosts it in an area of the house where it is.
Hmm.
So now we have that and the Wi-Fi is kick ass.
Nice.
But we are now saddled. This is another technical leap forward that I was not asking for. We are now accompanied by the Google Assistant, the virtual assistant, the one that you
Okay.
speak to and that listens
Yep.
to you.
Yep.
So that's new.
I'm always watching.
My kids are talking to it and asking
Yeah.
it questions about like the Eiffel Tower, and my daughter's like lighting it up with questions, and that, which is fine because like she talks. It doesn't have a head
Sure.
or a soul.
Right.
And I
Or
asked
body
it.
or
I asked it. I was like, "Hey Google, do you have a soul?" You know what that thing said?
what did it say?
Yes. No, I'm just kidding. It said, "I'll have to ask the engineers." And I was like, "Ah, funny.
Yeah, they
This
got
thing is gonna
coy.
kill us." Okay, I'm so scared of it. I asked it if it was listening all the time. It gave a really vague non-answer.
Sure.
And yeah, I don't like it, but it's a part of my life now. So
Right. Sure.
yeah. In fact, I'm pretty sure if I brought it into this room right now and put the other mic up to it, it could probably effectively guess the show for us.
Right.
That would really help with some box office stats. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not such a
It
bad
could,
idea.
it could be our automated co-pilot.
Oh my God, would that be crazy if we did a whole live show with the Google virtual assistant?
Just asking it questions like an interview show.
I asked it about the Marianas Trench, and it rattled off all these facts. Like, here's how deep it is. It's the deepest trench in the entire world.
Mm-hmm.
It is named after the cluster of the Marianas Islands. I was like, man, you're smart.
Right.
So, yeah, that's Google Virtual Assistant for you. So,
We should bring it on and get its opinions on all the modern films that we watch.
its opinions. I suppose we could do that.
Hey Google, what did you think of Extraction?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, yeah. Here's the. It'll just give us the Rotten Tomatoes consensus, probably.
Yeah, probably.
All right. Well,
68% on Rotten Tomatoes.
is it 68%?
It is.
Oh dear. Well, we'll talk about that in just a fine second.
Due time.
Yeah, in due time. I wanted to bring up this situation with Ellen DeGeneres, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it because I know how you and I typically respond to cancel culture, and how you and I typically respond to allegations of like malfeasance,
Yep.
and especially now it's certainly something of a thing right now for people to get called out for bad behavior in positions of power, which is good. And can be bad depending on who is doing the accusing, what sort of proof they have, and how willing everyone is to follow a logical line of due process.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to share the live stream here real quick, which is why I was talking so funny. All right, that's it. I'm done with that now. All right, so the thing about Ellen is, so she has basically been accused of, it said mostly just a toxic work environment, but it went as far as to saying like there's some sexually inappropriate things, I think. But
I haven't heard that.
But it's not like let me make sure, but not by her, by
Sure.
staff, by
Okay.
producers and stuff. The whole thing about this whole thing with Ellen is that none of this, as true to the assumption of the Hollywood machine, or the entertainment machine rather, the person in question, the person whose name is on the show, is kind of insulated from all this.
Yeah.
Which either means she has nothing to do with it, or she's just well insulated from this sort of stuff because there's so much money riding on the show. But
Sure.
the reason I brought this up to you, especially because I saw this kind of cooking, and I was like, oh, that's weird. And then Brad Garrett spoke out.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Garrett, of many things, but most notably, Everybody Loves Raymond.
Mm-hmm.
Brad Garrett is, I wouldn't call him like an A-list celebrity, but he's
No.
still a working celebrity who,
Yeah.
regardless,
He's well known.
when celebrities start to risk their credibility by coming out
Mm-hmm.
and saying, yeah, this totally happens, that's where I sort of start to go, okay, here's a guy with something to lose if he speaks out of school.
Yeah.
So Brad Garrett came forward and he retweeted one of the stories. I think it was, which article? It was the Variety article where Ellen had sent an apology to her staff. I think just about in general, if anyone has felt mistreated, it was one of those sort of non-apologies.
Sure.
And his response was, sorry, but it comes from the top. No more than one who were treated horribly by her. Common knowledge. And let's see, let me set this up. The talk show host recently responded. This is from, who is this from? Vulture. Recently responded to allegations of racism and mistreatment by current and former employees of her daytime talk show by issuing an apology to her staff who had been treated unfairly, not equal, or worse, discarded. In the letter, which was obtained by the Hollywood Reporter this week, DeGeneres put most of the blame for the allegations on the show's producers, who she said are speaking on my behalf and misrepresenting who I am, and that has to stop. But Brad Garrett saw that and was like, no, because I've heard of this stuff happening too. And there was a BuzzFeed News report in which 36 former Ellen employees alleged that the producers of the show engaged in, quote, rampant sexual misconduct, harassment, and assault. At the center of the allegations are head writer and executive producer Kevin Lehman, executive producer Ed Glavin, and co-executive producer Jonathan Norman. And so the reason I started paying attention to this is because, first of all, it's just whispers. And it was like, oh, okay. And then Warner Media heard enough to start an investigation about it. So that kind of got everything going, and then it just sort of snowballed.
Sure.
Leah Thompson from Back to the Future and many other television projects has chimed in and supported Brad Garrett's comments and said it is, she agreed, a true story. It is common knowledge. So I wanted to comment on this because I'm going to set something up and not pay it off. I do know someone who has worked on Ellen's show. And I have not spoken to that person about it. that's the not payoff.
Yes,
The
sure.
reason I bring that up is that I don't see that person anywhere near this story, which whatever, that's one staffer, but I'm sure that if you were trying to ask the staff what's going on, I'm sure they've signed NDAs or something like that.
Sure.
So you can't ask anybody who currently works for the show or used to work for the show who doesn't want to like get blackballed in the industry. And I only bring this up. I keep saying that. I keep listing more things. So it's not really only. I further bring this up because, and this is just hearsay or not hearsay. This is sort of like a shooting from the hip. I used to listen to the Adam Carolla show a few years ago, and he always used to say it's really weird that all Ellen wants to do on her show, Ellen is all about dancing. Let's dance. Let's be happy, dance, dance. Everyone's dancing.
Yep.
He says, I went to a wedding recently when Ellen was there, never danced once. And it's just like, okay, maybe she just doesn't want to dance when she's not working. And it's like, no.
Yeah.
And I think he had said like he had gotten vibes from Ellen and from Ellen's staff that things were not so great there as they may seem. But until this week, that was all sort of like, all right, well, that's just someone's interpretation of show business. And I understand how it's easy to say this person puts on a happy face, but it might be hell working for them. Of course, it's cliche to think that might be going on until this stuff starts getting out. So my whole point in bringing this all up is I don't know anything. I don't want to say that it's true or not true. Portia de Rossi, her wife, has come out and said, I'm standing by her. This is unfounded. So who knows? I think the way this is all going to shake out is nothing's going to happen. The show is not getting canceled. CBS or whoever the network isn't going to have to, you know, nothing is going to reach their way to Ellen. So you can read that one of two ways. Either she did nothing and does not know anything about this and would never, as she says, would never endorse it. Or you could read it as, her name is on the bill, her name is on the sign. It's the Ellen Show. How does she not know what her staff is up to? How has she not heard what her staff is up to? I don't know what side I fall on. I like Ellen DeGeneres.
Sure.
I recently, I think on the show, Dustin, I've talked about how much I like Ellen DeGeneres. So I don't know. How much do you know about all this, and how much have you thought about all this, really?
I don't know a whole lot about it. I know, a few headlines and that sort of thing. I'm indifferent toward most of the situation, but I will say, in terms of whether or not I enjoy Ellen as an actress, I think she's fairly one note. And whether I think she's good as a daytime talk show host, yeah, she's probably fine. But I don't have any warm and fuzzies towards her, or any ill will towards her. So I don't know. But what I do know is that two things. One, it's very easy to say my boss is a jerk.
Yeah.
When you feel mistreated, that doesn't mean you are mistreated, but I think a lot of people feel that way by their employer. But I don't know. I mean, I will say this. Ellen has always struck me as somebody who probably has the ability to be mean, or be a jerk if the cameras are off. I don't know why, but that is the impression that I've always kind of gotten, is that there's a facade to it, and there may be some anger there, like some anger issues, or at least some diva type tendencies that might rub people the wrong way. I've heard the word intimidation used about this case, that people think she's intimidating, but not like she just is, but like she uses the intimidation to get her way. And maybe that's true. Maybe it isn't true. I'm not sure, but I do think that there deserves to be an investigation, because I think that anytime a large group of people are saying something, it probably is something that needed to be said, and there may be some truth to it. And then I'll also say that I agree with Brad Garrett that it all starts at the top. I think that anytime there's a dysfunctional workplace, it's because there's a dysfunctional figurehead at the top of it, who has allowed certain behaviors and certain attitudes to remain unchecked. And in as far as Ellen is the figurehead, the question remains whether or not, even though it's called the Ellen Show, how involved is she beyond just showing up and reading the prompter? I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I think if there's any truth to it, I'd like to see it come out. I'd like to see things get better, and that if Ellen is not quite as warm and fuzzy off camera as people think, then I would like to see that change. But I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, whatever happens, whether they say, yep, there's been some abuse here, or if they say, no, there's not been any abuse here, it doesn't really affect me too bad. I think that, again, I don't watch her show, and beyond just seeing a random clip every now and then on YouTube, it's not really going to affect me. So yeah, I don't know. I hate to be like that guy who's like, I have an opinion, but not really. My opinion is that it doesn't affect me. But I think that I think that the bottom line is, if anything is going on that should not be going on in this day and age, I'd like to see that brought out and fixed. That does not mean she should lose her job, but it does mean that there should be some sort of reprimand in place, and that's what HR is for. When employees have issues, they go to HR. HR brings this to the appropriate party and has discussions, even if the appropriate party is, the head of the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, I hope that more so than just people are talking about it online, I hope they're talking about it in the proper arena, which is the workplace, and getting some things done through the proper channels there. So anyway, I hope that things get better, and I hope that the employees don't feel taken advantage of or abused by somebody who certainly has all the power in the situation. So yeah, I don't know. It 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 could be true. It could not be true. I don't know. I'm interested to see how it goes, but at the end of the day, it's less so because I want the show to be different, because I couldn't care less about the show. It's
Right.
that I want people who are working for her not to feel abused by her or by the system or by her 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 name like put on things like
Right.
it's very easy when there's a strong again figurehead to assume certain things about her, whether they're true or not, and then start like overcompensating. It's a weird example, but like I often think of people like George Lucas who are surrounded by yes men all the time. I often wonder how often people actually ask him questions and ask him what he thinks and talk to him, or if they just assume, oh, George wouldn't like that, and then it becomes like this thing, and then George was never consulted. It's just like this whole thing underneath him of people scared of him, even though no one's ever really met him or talked to him. And
Right.
that could be the same here. So who knows?
Yeah, it certainly makes all of those clips I see online of her scaring her staff, it certainly
Yeah.
makes those a lot more sinister.
Yeah, it does, doesn't
It's like they're screaming with fear. It's like, oh, what a great place to work. And it's like, no, we really are afraid.
Right, exactly.
um, yeah, especially because like I think a lot of people that work on those shows, that might be their first job in show business. That might be their
Yeah.
first job in entertainment. And I mean, it's not okay to treat anybody in a bad way in the workplace, but it's, I mean, especially considering how far a lot of those, I'm going to call them kids, as far as
Mm.
a lot of those kids have traveled just to get a job in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Um, especially if they don't want to be like, especially if they're not performers, if they are wanting to be producers or executives one day, like it's important to them to land a gig on the working for Ellen DeGeneres. And just to think that anybody who is such a giver in the public eye,
Yeah.
with or without the studio's money, um,
Sure.
you know, it's disheartening to hear that may be the opposite behind closed doors.
Right. And I think we live in a world where this kind of thing is being called out, right? Like the whole issue of like the movie star being the diva, it's gone on for ever since the beginning of Hollywood itself. But I think we're in an age now where it behooves celebrities to actually not be that way.
Hmm.
And not to say they should pretend to be humble, but the more down to earth and the more humble they actually are, it feels like the more they're actually liked these days. Whereas before, I don't know that that was always the case. But like now you think of somebody like, again, a weird example, but like a Chris Pratt who seems very down to earth and like you could go talk to him. Those are the people that tend to be um, the most popular. And so I think, I'm I like the fact that we're in an age where we're calling people out on diva-isms. And so hopefully, again, I don't know anything about Ellen. I don't know if this is true or this isn't true, but I would love to see, her step up and again, whether it's true or not, step up and just say, look, there's a way that my employees are feeling. I either was aware, but wasn't aware how intense it was, or I wasn't aware at all.
Right.
And I am now going to be taking steps to make sure that everyone is heard and valued. And so whether again, whether it is true or it isn't true, I do think it falls to Ellen to make changes and to implement new procedures, regardless, to be at least that humble to say, look, I don't even think it's true, but I'm going to change things anyway. And hopefully that's where this goes.
Yeah, I think that the cynical assumption to all this is that is it assuming Ellen's guilt. Like I think the
Sure.
cynic would say, she had to have known something, but it doesn't matter because she's too insulated. They'll never trace anything to her.
Sure.
I think the optimistic answer would be you have to take everyone at their word and
Yeah.
let the investigation take its course. I mean, Warner
Yeah.
Media says they're conducting an investigation. You'd like to hope that money would not prevail over decency
Yeah.
when it came to how heavily they're going to investigate this. But let's say they did find that Ellen herself was responsible for a ton of stuff. I'm not sure what would happen. I mean, you'd like to think that the company would go, you know what, we've had a good run on with this show, but this is not the time to be defending someone who's behaving badly.
Sure. Sure.
Um,
But I will say this too. The last thought I have on it is it is entirely possible that Ellen did not know.
yeah,
Again, just like the George Lucas scenario, there are people below her that will put in the minds of the entry level staff what she might be like. And even though the entry level staff may rarely, if ever, meet her, they have an opinion of her based on the people who do interact with her. And so she may not ever know what the entry level staff think or how they feel because she's too far removed from it. And it isn't her fault. That's the way the hierarchy works. That's the hierarchy working the way it's supposed to. But it is very easy for somebody who is in a position of power under her to influence people's opinions of her. And then she, through no fault of her own, is working in an environment where she's feared and where she is seen as an abuser, even though she has done nothing. So I think that's also incredibly plausible.
over the weekend, don't know if you saw the news about Wilford Brimley dying.
Yeah.
Didn't again, I don't know much of his work. I think he was largely a sort of a parody by the time up until his passing because of the commercials for like Quaker Oats and
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 diabetes medication.
diabetes
Yeah.
medication.
Yeah.
Whenever I think of Wilford Brimley, I always think of The Thing.
Yeah.
And I love a lot of people, though, remember him from Cocoon.
Hmm.
Apparently, he was in the film adaptation of The Firm, which is a great book. And the
Hmm.
movie stars Tom Cruise, I believe. Yeah, but he had a kidney issue because the first thing I thought was like, oh, because I thought no, no, I mean no, obviously no offense to him, but I thought okay, he's diabetic and coronavirus, diabetes people, diabetics are in a high risk group, so I thought he got the virus and that it especially got. I
Mm.
mean, he was 85 years old, he was
Yeah.
famously diabetic. I just thought, oh, it's COVID-19. Nope, he was suffering from a kidney issue.
Yeah.
Whenever someone passes these days, you always think like, oh, like was it? Nope. A lot of times, no, it wasn't. Just a
Right.
regular old,
Right.
person who had conditions and ended up passing away.
Right.
So that is sad. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
let me bring up one more thing before we get into tonight's film.
Sure.
Again, this is more just part of this. I mean, again, most of this story is older-ish news, but since we had the splashdown yesterday, Sunday, of the astronauts who went up on the SpaceX Dragon module up to the International Space Station, they splashed down yesterday, right over near me, off Pensacola Beach, and came back down to Earth, which was really cool. I think it was the first splashdown in like half a century from America. Yeah. So it made me think of, and of course the article popped out about that space movie that Tom Cruise and Doug Liman are wanting to do.
Hmm.
And I don't remember if we talked about the idea that this is happening. Did we talk about that on the show?
No, I don't think so.
You know, what have I been saying for at least a couple of years, Dustin? Every time we talk about Mission Impossible, what did I keep saying?
Space.
I said they would be going to space. At some point,
Yep.
Tom Cruise is going to go to space
Yep.
because he did that Halo jump in the other movies. And I was like, that guy is going to do that Red Bull jump. He's going to
Yep.
fall to Earth from space. And I
Yep.
swear to God, man, I keep thinking, what can they do? I mean, going to space is obviously like, whoa, that's a big.